Have you ever watched someone you love rehearse a lie? Not a small lie, but the kind of lie that shatters worlds. I saw it from the crack in our bedroom door, the sliver of light cutting through the darkness of our Chicago brownstone. My wife, Sarah, stood before the antique vanity mirror, her back to me. Her phone was propped against a jewelry box, glowing softly. She took a deep breath, her shoulders rising and falling. "I love you," she whispered to her own reflection, a small, practiced smile on her lips. Then her face tightened with a flicker of self-correction. She tried again, her voice softer, more intimate. "I love you." A pause. I've never felt this way about anyone. My heart didn't just break. It turned to ice in my chest. She wasn't practicing for me. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. The strange behavior had started subtly 3 months earlier. Late nights at the office became the norm. She was a lawyer at a high-powered firm on Wacker Drive, so I dismissed it as ambition. Then came the hushed phone calls she'd take on the balcony, the way she'd angle her phone screen away from me on the couch. Receipts for dinners I wasn't at, a hotel bar on Rush Street when she was supposed to be with her sister. Each one was a small paper cut to our 10-year marriage. When I'd ask, her answers were smooth, almost too polished. She'd touch my arm, her eyes cold and placating. "You worry too much, honey. It's just work." She was manipulative, making me feel like my suspicions were a flaw in my character, a lack of trust she found disappointing. The man's name was Mark, a colleague. I saw his name flash on her phone once before she snatched it away. It felt untouchable, wrapped in the arrogance of their secret. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I found a credit card statement for a weekend trip to a boutique hotel in Lincoln Park, a place Weedy once talked about going for our anniversary. I was listed as an authorized user on the card, a detail she'd forgotten. The charge was for a sweet 2 days. I was in Milwaukee that weekend, visiting my sick father. I sat in my car, parked across from her office building, the statement shaking in my hand. The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot wave that washed over me, leaving me breathless and hollow. I watched her walk out of the building, laughing with him. Mark, he was smug, his hand resting on the small of her back for just a second too long. That's when the grief turned to something else, something cold and hard and sharp. The love was gone, replaced by a quiet, calculating rage. My breakdown was silent. I didn't shout, I didn't confront her. I went home, walked into my home office, and closed the door. For an hour I just sat in the dark, the city lights of Chicago twinkling outside my window, feeling like a ghost in my own life. Then I turned on the computer. My new purpose was clear. I would become a meticulous archivist of her betrayal. I installed recovery software on our home network, pulling deleted texts, hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop, who met me in a dingy diner in the Loop. He was expensive, but the photos he delivered a week later were priceless. Sarah and Mark kissing in a parking garage, holding hands across a table at a restaurant in the West Loop, entering that same Lincoln Park hotel. I documented everything: dates, times, locations, expenses. I created a timeline, a fortress of evidence. The trap was set in 3 parts: social, professional, and legal. Sarah's parents were hosting their 40th anniversary party at a lavish venue in Oak Brook. They adored me and were proud of their daughter's perfect marriage. That was the social stage. Professionally, I discovered that Mark was not just her colleague, he was a junior partner, and their firm had a strict clause against inter-office relationships that could create a conflict of interest, especially on shared accounts. They were both lead counsel on a major corporate merger. Legally, Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, but assets are divided equitably. Her infidelity, while not a factor in the divorce itself, would be a factor in the court of public and professional opinion. I filed for divorce silently the Friday before the party, timing the service for the following Monday. The night of the party was cinematic. Sarah was radiant in a dress that cost more than my first car, mingling, accepting compliments on her wonderful life. Her parents gave a speech, tearing up as they mentioned me, their devoted son-in-law. As they finished, I walked to the microphone set up for guest tributes. I saw a flicker of confusion in Sarah's eyes. I started by thanking her parents. Then, I looked directly at my wife. "Sarah and I also have an anniversary coming up," I said, my voice steady. And in honor of that, I've put together a small tribute to the last 6 months of her dedication. I nodded to a technician I'd hired. The large screens on either side of the ballroom, meant for a slideshow of her parents, flickered to life. The first image was a text message. "Can T wait to have you all to myself this weekend?" Then, a photo of her and Mark, kissing in the parking garage. The room fell silent. Image after image, played receipts, hotel bills, more photos, each one a nail in her coffin. Sarah's face went from confusion to horror to a pale, waxy mask. Her father's jaw was on the floor. Mark, who was there as her colleague, looked like he was about to be physically ill. I ended with a crystal-clear shot of them walking into the hotel, her head on his shoulder. I turned back to the crowd. "So I'd like to propose a toast," I said, raising my glass.
To?
Honesty and to consequences. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Her parents were mortified. Her social circle evaporated. On Monday morning, an anonymous package containing my entire evidence file was delivered to the managing partners of her law firm. Both she and Mark were suspended, then fired, for violating the company's code of conduct and jeopardizing a major client. The divorce was swift. With the weight of the public humiliation and professional ruin, she didn't fight. She took her personal belongings and a fraction of what she thought she was entitled to. The last I heard, she was living in a small apartment somewhere in the suburbs, working as a paralegal. Mark had moved to another state. Our beautiful Chicago brownstone feels empty now, but it's a clean kind of empty. Sometimes late at night, I walk past the vanity in our old bedroom and I see her ghost, whispering lies to a reflection that is no longer there. The silence she left behind is the only thing that feels real anymore. The end.